This is The Outlook. LGBTI news, views and culture brought to you by NewsHub. The news cycle this week has been full of debate about police marching in the Auckland Pride Parade. It's an issue that has divided the LGBTI community like nothing else in recent times, and both sides have set their position in stone. Being gay may be mainstream and accepted in places like Ponsonby or Remuera, but spend some time in a small town where there are no queer support services, or talk to journalist Kim Baker-Wilson, who spoke openly about the day he was brutally beaten in a homophobic attack. All he remembers is being called a fat, then receiving a hard punch to the left of his head. Pride allows us to celebrate his amazing recovery. All it takes is a quick Google search to see it's not all sunshine and rainbows in the LGBTI world. Rainbow suicide rates are 5 times higher. Man jailed for homophobic assault said he was showing victim brotherly discipline. Openly gay rugby player Gareth Thomas beaten in homophobic attack in Cardiff. 9-year-old boy dies after homophobic bullying from classmates. Just 9 years old. Pride allows us to spread the awareness in the hope these types of headlines will stop. And then there's the issue of family acceptance. LifeWise says 26% of LGBTI youth in Aotearoa who come out to family are subsequently disowned and become homeless. Pride allows us to send a message that things will get better and that they do belong. Then there's the thought that we don't have religious parades or festivals about other sexualities. That's true. There is no parade celebrating Christianity. There's just Christmas and Easter, where the whole country grinds to a halt to mark its existence. I'm sure the LGBTI community would happily swap a parade for a day off any day. Then there's the annual Santa Parade that celebrates a jolly old man based on a character created by Coca-Cola. If the idea of a happy, inclusive celebration of our nation's diversity isn't for you, then maybe skip the Pride Festival, but don't tell me it's not needed. Happy days. This is The Outlook. LGBTI news, views and culture brought to you by NewsHub. Hello and welcome to the third episode of The Outlook. I'm Dan Lake, the host, and joining me today, co-host Stephen Oates. How's it going?
Very good, Dan. This is like the old days.
It is.
We used to have a radio show on Radio Ponsonby, Dan and I, and that was called Wild Oats, right?
And it was on Radio Ponsonby that broadcast to basically Ponsonby Central.
We were on the interweb.
We had listeners all over the street.
We were global.
We were global. And joining us, our guest right through the show today, Keita and Anita from TVNZ's House of Drag. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, lovely to be here.
As you shimmied into the building, it was glitter everywhere.
You look amazing. Your makeup looks fantastic.
Thank you for noticing.
It looks even better in person rather than on TV.
It's amazing what a dark room can do to a woman.
Yeah,
or a man.
Amazing what a woman can do to a dark room. Hey, we're going to get to talking to you in a second, but first we're just going to run through a few headlines from around the world. The All Blacks weren't just wearing black this week when they took to the field to play Italy at the weekend. The entire team wore rainbow laces to show support for the former Welsh rugby player Gareth Thomas, who was recently beaten up in a homophobic attack. The 44-year-old came out as gay in 2009. 2 years after retiring from rugby, he posted a video on Twitter about what happened.
This morning I've decided to make what I hope will be a positive video. Last night I was the victim in my home city of a hate crime for my sexuality. Why I want it to be positive? Because I want to say thank you to the police who were involved and were very helpful and allowed me to do restorative justice with the people who did this, because I thought they could learn more that way than any other way. So this, I hope, will be a positive message.
A referendum in Taiwan has put a dent in the hopes of the LGBTI community that the island would become the first place in Asia to legalise same-sex marriage after the no-vote campaigners came out on top. The referendum, however, is not binding, and it comes after a ruling from the country's constitutional court that Taiwan had to make same-sex marriage legal within 2 years.
And finally, move over Batman and Robin. There could be a new gay cartoon icon coming to town. An executive at Marvel has said she would like to see the brand reveal a gay superhero. Apparently, and this is just news to me, Deadpool and Poison Ivy are known to be gay characters in the comics, but not in the movies. Did you guys know that?
I didn't. But that sounds a little bit delicious, actually.
It does.
So they're kind of closeted comic gay superheroes.
To be fair, I thought they were all a bit homosexual with their tight spandex.
Yeah, those big muscles and everything like that. Do you think there would be a gay superhero? Can you imagine Hollywood bringing this about?
I think in Japanese comics there are gay characters.
Yeah.
And I think apparently
Definitely
they
in
have
some of the
huge followings.
videos I've seen online, they're definitely gay. Yeah.
Are we talking about the same videos, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's important for, gay people to be represented in every facet of everything. I mean, like, I know some pretty super gay people. So.
Oh, thanks, Keita.
But we do have to bear in mind how the world receives it. I mean, was it Beauty and the Beast, the Disney film that came out about a year or two ago, and there was one gay character in it, and it was banned in so many countries. And we were all celebrated it when we first found out about that. But there are still a lot of countries and places around the world that really won't accept it.
Also, going back to Beauty and the Beast, they kind of failed to realise the bestiality going on in that, didn't they?
I'm sure when you brought that up, you said Booty and the Beast, and I'm like, that sounds pretty homosexual.
I know, but you're Anita, you're completely right. Isn't it ironic that everyone can watch a woman falling in love with an animal, and yet one gay character kind of floating around in the background causes mass hysteria?
Well, I think that's all the more reason then, if people are kicking up a fuss because of a character that's like a slight innuendo in a movie, it's all the more reason to have gay superheroes, I think.
And as Keita knows, cows need love too.
You're an utter bitch.
Right.
Also, can I just say one more thing? The latest, the Black Panther movie that came out earlier this year, which is, it was massively successful, but just the fact that all the main characters were black was quite edgy for a lot of people, but it was hugely successful. So it does kind of show that not all superheroes need to be white, heteronormative, heterosexual.
I was actually really disappointed with that movie because I was just assuming it was going to be a movie about superhero panthers, and it was quite disappointing.
I like it when Stephen says talking about Black Panther and he says massive and huge. And I'm like, thank you for noticing.
That was last night. Before we go any further, we really need to find out more about what you guys do. Now, the bosses are listening, so your show is on TVNZ, but we won't tell anyone.
Shocking.
On demand.
Tell us about the concept of the show. What happens? Someone hasn't seen it. What is it?
Yeah, so TVNZ On Demand and Warner Brothers actually put together a fabulous new show with us called House of Drag, and it is an elimination-style reality TV show where 9 drag stars come together, live in a fabulous mansion, our mansion actually.
Of course.
Yeah, and they do outrageous challenges and get eliminated each week, and it's full of laughs and drama and blood, sweat, and literal tears. So.
Tell us about your individual personalities. Maybe you should talk about each other's personality
Yeah.
traits.
Well,
Go for it.
Well, Keita is a larger-than-life, questionable lady who loves nothing more than sausages and a wayward night on the town flirting with straight heterosexual men. What else would I say about you? She's got a wicked sense of humour.
She has a heart of gold.
A heart of gold. Also, her heart is clogged with fat. And she's pretty much out for a good time, making people laugh and being horrifically inappropriate.
Yeah.
Time to get your own back now.
Revenge.
Well, to that I would say takes one to know one. Wiggles, Anita Wiglet. She is a kooky comedy queen with a vintage flair. She also has a heart of gold, mostly from other people's gold that she collects and keeps close to her chest. And she's a sweetheart, really. Apart from when we're working together, in which case I call her a wayward bitch. Get the out of my face!
Is it true that she sometimes blows her own trumpet?
Yes. Well, that's why we work so well together. She blows a trumpet, I toot my own horn. So.
just for listeners who think that I'm making an innuendo joke, Anita Wiggler actually does play the trumpet.
I do. My career was previous was playing the trumpet professionally, but I realised there was much more money in blowing other things, so I decided to career change. And it's a lot more fun, to be fair.
You guys will be sticking around for the rest of the show, but just after this short break, we're going to be speaking to Jason Myers from the New Zealand AIDS Foundation about some myths around contracting HIV.
My name's Kita, this is Anita, and welcome to House of Drag.
A very strong pose and an extremely strong jawline.
Oh, I'm a man.
A vigilant off-red.
Cheers, quiz.
We gave you a no smuggling beach balls policy. Don't you dare.
Tighten that tucking tape and let's hit it! You're looking a bit moist.
So pretty.
Who will be crowned the winner of House of Drag?
That was the promo for Kita and Anita's House of Drag. You can find it on demand somewhere else. But changing tempo now to the issue of HIV. A recent survey about the attitudes and perceptions of HIV in New Zealand has revealed quite a few concerning misconceptions. Joining us now is Mythbuster and the Chief Executive of the NZ AIDS Foundation, Jason Myers. How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
So we're going to bust some myths first. Well, a few of them are actually true, but we're going to go through them. Here's a list. 38% of Kiwis surveyed said they would be uncomfortable having a flatmate living with HIV.
That is sadly true.
Wow, okay. 46% of Kiwis surveyed said they were uncomfortable letting their child play with another child living with HIV.
Even more sadly true.
And 88% of Kiwis said they would be uncomfortable having a sexual relationship with someone with HIV.
And that is true.
If a person living with HIV has maintained an undetectable viral load for more than 6 months, there is effectively zero risk of sexual transmission of HIV.
That is true. Great news.
So tell us what an undetectable viral load means. What is that?
Yeah, so this is somebody who's living with HIV, who's receiving the medication they need, and for whom that medication is working really well. And essentially what it does is suppress the levels of virus in their blood to undetectable levels, and that means they don't transmit HIV to their sexual partners.
Does that... are we talking like 99.9% or is it 100% you won't?
100%. So
Okay.
huge clinical trials, huge numbers of unprotected sex acts between one HIV positive partner and one HIV negative partner, and not a single HIV transmission.
That's obviously come a long way just in the last 10 or 20 years, right, in terms of advancements in medicine. HIV is still transmissible when condoms are used correctly.
False.
Right, so it's 99.9 or are we talking 100?
Use a condom consistently and correctly and you won't transmit HIV.
You cannot contract HIV by drinking from the same glass as someone.
True.
You can contract HIV by kissing.
False.
For most people living with HIV, the stigma is worse than the virus.
That is true.
Tell us about the stigma then. What is it that, what do they experience? What is it they're going through?
Yeah, we know that there are a whole heap of stigma and negative perceptions surrounding HIV, and these are really challenging for people living with HIV. They can stop people seeking the care and treatment that they need. It can make them fearful to enter into relationships for fear of rejection. It often leads people to living lives of secrecy, not wanting to disclose to employers, for example, for fear of repercussion, not even disclosing to family or very close friends for fear of what that might mean. So this is why it's really important that we dispel the myths that are out there and combat the stigma that still exists.
How do you balance between essentially saying, be safe, don't get HIV, but then say having HIV is not really as bad as what people perceive it to be, and there's lots of medication out there now. How do you balance that? Because it's kind of a mixed message, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting tension. I mean, what you've identified is that, living with HIV is a chronic manageable condition, very effective medications that make living a long, healthy life possible. At the same time, we want to avoid living with lifelong chronic infections if we can. They're not only a significant burden to individuals, just the burden of taking pills every day, all of the stigma that we're talking about and the impact of that, but also on the health system. And so, that is why prevention messages and the idea around staying safe, whether that be through wearing a condom or taking the pill pre-exposure prophylaxis that prevents the acquisition of HIV, the message is still really, really important, because ultimately we want to keep people HIV negative.
We have the tools now to end HIV transmissions in New Zealand by 2025.
True.
Wow. Tell us about these tools and how advanced we are in terms of that track for 2025, which is not that far away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we have the Humble condom, which has been around for, well over 30 years in the New Zealand AIDS Foundation's prevention messaging, and it's going to continue to play a really key role, both in preventing HIV, but also a range of other STIs that are out there and on the incline. As well as condoms, though, we have a number of other tools that we've added to the toolbox. So I referred to one earlier, PrEP, or pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is a daily pill taken by HIV-negative people, which drastically reduces the chance of acquiring HIV. So couple condoms and PrEP with the fact that we now know people living with HIV who are on successful treatment don't transmit HIV to their sexual partners. If you follow that logic, condoms plus PrEP plus making the most of undetectable viral load, we really do have everything we need to end HIV transmission in Aotearoa. Perhaps the biggest challenge we have still is the stigma, because I've said it's a huge challenge for people living with HIV, but it's also difficult for HIV prevention because it stops people coming forward for an HIV test, and if people aren't tested, they're not diagnosed and they're not getting the care and treatment that they need.
I know myself that, I am pretty damn sure that I don't have HIV, but whenever I get a blood test, I still get nervous and I still think, do I really want to go to the doctor? Even though I'm pretty damn sure. So if there are other people who are, perhaps more at risk and they're getting quite fearful about it, they should just front up and go and see the doctor and get it over and done with, right?
Absolutely. I liken this to taking the car for a warrant of fitness. You think, surely it's okay, but you sit there for that 20 minutes while it's going through the chute and waiting for that result. But the reality is that getting an HIV test and even a full STI screen is really effortless.
So the car will still be running once it comes out the other side.
Absolutely.
And how fast are these tests now for HIV? They're really fast, aren't they?
Very rapid. So at the AIDS Foundation we use a rapid test, so you'll come in and it'll be a 30-minute appointment and you'll walk out knowing whether the test is HIV positive or HIV negative.
Remind us again the text number and what to text.
Text RED to 849 and you'll donate $3 to a very worthy cause.
Excellent. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Cool. Make sure you've subscribed to The Outlook on iTunes or whatever podcast player you use. Now, we couldn't do a show this week without mentioning the fallout from the board's decision at Pride not to allow police to march in their uniforms. We've found out in the last couple of days that both Air New Zealand and Qantas are unlikely to take part in the parade as well. We've requested numerous times for the chair of the Pride Board, Sissy Rock, and the leader of People in Prisons, Emily Rakiri, to come on the show, but neither were available. However, one board member has responded to our interview requests, and he joins us now. Zach Delate, hello. And firstly, how divided was the board on this decision?
I don't think we've been really talking about that, but I'm guessing we can now that everything's been leaking out. It wasn't a unanimous vote. We did have a 6-3, but since that, those numbers have shifted and altered as more kōrero and conversations happened. I can speak from my own perspective. At the time when we did the vote, which was actually months ago, I actually abstained, just purely because I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge to make an informed decision. So I didn't want to say yes or no. So I did abstain and I removed myself from the vote. But as I've had ongoing conversations with the community and I've seen the dialogue and the just everything I'm sure that you're seeing as well.
Yeah.
It really helped me make a structured decision that I do stand by the rest of my board members. And I think we're making the correct decision.
People Against Prisons. This is a group that has obviously been around at Pride for quite a while. What are your thoughts on that group?
Well, formerly No Pride in Prisons. I have had a radical shift in them, actually, because I was on the board the first 2 times they protested. And I guess maybe I was blinded by privilege. I didn't hear what they were trying to say, and I was angry that they stopped the parade just because I knew the good work that we were trying to do. But I've gone to their meetings, I've heard their korero, and I stand alongside them. I'm not a member of PAPA, and that's what I think. A lot of people think all the people that are supporting the board are all suddenly People Against Prisons Aotearoa members, which we're not. But they've got some great things to say, and I love their mana and their work. And if you were at the hui a few weeks ago, they were respectful and they spoke one at a time. They raised their hand, and it was a complete juxtaposition to other members of our community who were volatile and yelling and spitting, and it was.
Would you say that most of the board agree with the message coming from People Against Prisons?
Definitely some of the messages. In particular, like all of their work is not necessarily Auckland Pride Festival related. But during our current conversation, they're supporting us, and we're listening to them. They've got some great things to say. Do we agree with 100% of everything? No. But do we feel like we've been hijacked, which I'm reading every day about myself? No. We also are capable of making our own decisions, and we are. They are a voice at the table, but they're not the only voice.
There was a report that popped up in the last couple of days I saw where they also want to abolish prisons, abolish the police, decriminalise welfare fraud, and one specific report said that they wanted to decriminalise sexual assault. Are these policies that you're aware of, and do you think that's an appropriate policy for a group being involved in Pride to be involved in?
I am aware of some of them. I haven't heard of a couple that you just mentioned. But I feel like, again, this was a compromise. I think if it was up to this group and if they had hijacked the borders, we're being so scrutinised that we have, like they don't want the police presence or first responders presence at all. And so that would have been a completely other step that we're not willing to do. We weren't going to ban them. This was just one small compromise. I'll keep reiterating that. Yeah. They just needed to not wear the uniform that is the symbol of the institution that has hurt and damaged so many people.
And just before you go, your thoughts on that vote that's coming up on December 6th. Do you think the board will be kept or will be shown the door?
It is hard to say. Obviously, there's been polls online. I've never checked Express magazine so much in my life.
Never believe online polls. That's one rule.
Exactly. Yeah. That is exactly true. It can go either way. I just hope people vote and respectful, can listen to opposing decisions and opinions, but still treating each other with mana and just aroha, and I hope the room doesn't get what it was last Sunday.
So anyone listening who's planning on going along, debate like adults, don't even think of spitting or yelling, and hopefully we can get to some sort of resolution. Hey, Zach, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us about this really delicate situation.
No worries, Dan. Sorry it took so long to get to you.
Right, well, it's time to say goodbye and thank our guests, Kita and Anita, the campus things on TV since Hudson and Halls. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Earlier on, Jason Myers, New Zealand's own Mythbuster, and my co-host this week, Stephen Oates. The list is long. He's a dog lover, an MC, an advocate, and proof you can still be a twink when you're over 40.
Yes!
And we also thank Zach Delate from the Pride Board for joining us today. The technical producer is Asher Bastian. What a name. Maggie Wicks is producer. If you want any more content from The Outlook, you head to newshub.co.nz/podcasts. Until next time, keep being yourself. You can check out more of our podcasts at newshub.co.nz/podcasts. And tell us where you're listening from. Email theoutlook@mediaworks.co.nz.